All right, welcome to today's webinar. So excited for you all to be able to join us. I'm joined by a special guest here, Chuck Thokey. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And without further ado, just tell us a little about you. Tell us about kind of the company that you represent. What you've been doing in the industry.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I'm excited. I am with a company called Top Rep, and as well as a subsidiary with Contractor Coach Pro. But Top Rep is the industry's leading sales training, sales and sales management training. I've had some people say, "Oh, it's management training." It's sales management, because sales management is so much different than any other type of management that you can have or be a part of. And so that's really what we do. Is we get into the weeds. It is a competition. So we do have a top rep, as well as we have the top 10 that always gets to come back at no cost if they want to come back to a future event and help teach. So when everybody's in their, we call them dog fights, but when everybody's inside of their breakouts, doing their role play with people that they've never met before, other reps that they've never met before, we have a lot of these black shirts that'll walk around and help them out understand what they're supposed to be doing, and as well as doing it on spot. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So tell us about these. I mean, the events are going on right now, right? The Top Rep events, are traveling the country doing these events. And from what you've shared with me before, they are much different than I'm going to have a speaker on the stage and just tell you all the information to you all day long. Tell us about that. I think that's super interesting. Like, just to touch on for a second here before we dive in.
Yeah, so it's a lot different than listening to somebody for 45 minutes and then hearing about marketing the next 45 minutes. I mean, so me and a partner, Jim Johnson, that is, we're training from A to Z. And we train for mastery. It's not one of these things where we want you to come in and we kind of pat you on the back and say, "Good job, you did a really good job this week." We really want them to master the material. And so the next event is actually next week in Denver. We do have a few extra seats left, but it's just as easy as going to topreptraining.com and getting signed up.
That's awesome. And so today's topic, obviously you're perfect to kind of speak into here, is just diving into the sales, big three things, the 3 R's here is recruiting, rebuttals, and then the retention of sales reps in today's market. So let's dive in. So first and foremost, we're going to start off with the heavy hitter here, and we'll get your opinion on just best ways to compensate sales reps: base plus commission, commission only. This is a topic that's been age-old in the sales space here as well. So in your opinion, like recommendations, in today's market, do you lean towards more of a base plus a smaller commissions because you're training these people down, or you do full straight commission and stick with the kind of age-old model of doing that?
So as my experience going into companies, whether it's going in to turn them around or just going in to coach them, I've seen them all. And I'll tell you, there is no best way of doing it. There's a good way, and a good way when we're looking at this, a good way is to making sure that you compensate based on their performance. Now, if you do a base, it better be a very small base. And I know that there's some salespeople out there that may get a little huffy, but the more money that you give them for doing little to nothing, the lazier they get. That's common sense. A lot of the companies that I go into, and they have that base, that it's like you have to be more of a tyrant just to keep them moving. And there's some very big companies out there that have just called me here recently and say, "What do we do? We went to this model where we pay a small base, and everybody turned into just teddy bears." It's like, yeah, because they don't need it anymore. And the guy that wanted to make 100,000 and now he's making 40 and not having to do anything for it, he's even saying, that's not bad. So again, if you give them a small base, just understand that you have to manage them tighter, manage them more. Now, the other way, or the other thing that I want you to look at, is understanding commission itself. So you can pay based on the profit, or you can pay based on the revenue. Well, paying based on profit, and I know that there's been a lot of arguments, around this paying based on profit. For me, just my take on this is that when you pay based on profit, you build distrust, because that person that's being paid on the profit is always wondering, man, are they padding this? Or I bet you anything that doesn't cost that much. I know for a fact when I was in such and such company, it didn't cost that much. So here comes all this distrust and issues with paying based on profit. So what I like to do is I do like to pay on revenue. And so I like to have a nice a revenue piece in there that they don't need that base. If they're doing their job, they shouldn't need a base. Now, if you want to offer them a draw through the winter, if you're up north and you really can't do a lot through the winter, you offer them a draw and then you offer it to how they're going to pay it back throughout the year. That is fine as well, too, because everybody needs cash flow. You can't starve them out in December, and you can't expect them to save the money back. If you got to tell a sales rep, hey, you're going to make all this money from April through November, and you need to save that money back, that's like asking a sales rep to follow up. It ain't gonna happen.
There you go. So on that, off the gross, and yeah, I've heard that again, time and time again from salespeople in the industry who are getting paid off the net profit. It's like the easiest way to have a sales rep leave you to go start their own company, because they start nitpicking all the details of that project and go, well, it's not my fault. You had to send another truck out there to send them more material because you didn't order it correctly. And then they go, that affected my commissions. Now they get them involved in the entire, set of the project instead of focusing on the next sale even. So when it comes to, commissions off the gross sale, though, there comes the inherent problem of, do you do price drops? And then what are you selling it at? Where's the par system on that side of things? What, from a retail sales, let's say just roofing, siding, windows, off a gross sale, where are you seeing like a kind of a good, either off a par system or off of just off a gross percentage point there? What kind of percentages are you seeing work the best, especially when like leads are provided? Let's kind of make that as kind of the baseline.
So if you're looking at a 1099, which most people are getting away from, the average in the industry right now is right around 10%. If you're looking at a W-2, the average is right around anywhere between 6 and 8%, depending on what they're doing for them. If they're offering benefits, cars, and all that kind of stuff. It really depends on what they're offering as to what they're going to pay them. And so the other, and if you're going to pay on gross, you have to know when if you're going to use software, which I would recommend use software if you're going to pay on gross. And so they enter in the data and it spits it out. This is what this job should sell for. These are your drops. If you want to get paid, you cannot deviate from these. And if they do it correctly, if they say, hey, this is we call it ADA, all discounts applied. That's where our par would go in and say, okay, you're going to get paid. Like on our company, we're W-2. So you're going to get paid 8% at ADA. And so we use a system called Leap. And so with Leap, they put the information in, and it comes out with all of their drops, all the financing, all the possibilities they have right in front of them. As long as they don't go maverick on me, they're going to get 8%. Now, behind the scenes, if they do go below that, we will look at the profit, but we don't share that with the rep. They do know that once you go below that, it's up to our discretion as to how we pay you because you decided to go off of the page.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, that's because there's all different factors in there, especially another big reason not to go off the profit of the job is because your financing fees and all that kind of stuff, that starts adding up pretty quick on these jobs. And you're just adding, and a sales rep who's being paid off a profit, they'll sell it at X thinking that there's additional profit and that there's actually not, that's not in their control either. They need a par, they need a simple way to plug that in. And most sales reps would prefer and enjoy the fact of being able to put the cubic inch of the window in, or the measure of the window in, or the measurement of the roof in, and being spit out, this is what I need to sell it at, and having confidence in that versus even, where they can go with that as well. So having a system like Leap, and there's plenty of technology out there today that allows them to do that versus the spreadsheets that I sold with once upon a time. So luckily that stuff's a little easier to work with. So that's awesome. So yeah, so 6 to 8% in that for a W-2 employee. Like you said, most people are going towards the W-2 route and offering some more additional kind of benefits to it to their employees versus the 1099, which is very, very common again, the smaller business realm as well, still to this day. So, and you do pay a little bit more just because they're taking a little bit more of the risk on that side of things as well. Right. But so yeah, let's dive into like what skills and attributes should you be looking for in a top sales rep and a top rep as you're hiring when you're looking in the interview process period. Where what are the skills and attributes that you're looking for hiring someone green versus hiring someone with experience? What's the key indicators there?
So when I'm working with a client, I do the exact same. I tell them to do the exact same thing that I do, and there's a book out there that I really like how they position this. It's called The Ideal Team Player from Patrick Lencioni. And it's just humble, hungry, and smart. When I'm interviewing somebody, those are the first three things that I'm just trying to get from this sales rep. We will do a personality test, kind of a DISC test type thing. And I put very little weight on it. That's just to kind of give me a baseline of who they are. But mostly, I just want to have a conversation with this person. And I just want to see what they're going to react or how they're going to react to certain things that I ask them. And so during that conversation are they humble? Is this person coming in here just to tell me how great they are? And I'll take that into effect if and I've had people literally talk to me in the third person. You know, I had this guy and I'm Bobby Riggs, you know, and I'm like, great, I can't, this will be a 2-minute conversation. But others have just let me know that, hey, you know, I know what I'm doing, but I can't tell you that I've learned everything. I'm a sponge. And to me, if you're a rep, I'm already bought in. If you say, hey, I'm a sponge, I've been doing this a long time, but I'll never tell you that I know everything. That's the perfect answer. And then when you're looking at hungry, you know, what do you want to make? $60,000 is not the key answer here. And we get that a lot. I just want to be able to pay my bills. Again, not the key answer here. But when they're looking and say, you know what, I've never made 6 figures and I'd sure like to figure out what that looks like. And if you can help me get there, that's what my aim is. I want to be able to make more money than my parents. And that's what I'm looking for. I want somebody that is realistic, but they want more. They want more than what they are getting now, or they want more than what they think is even capable. And so, you know, when a sales rep comes in and they let them know, like, hey, I've looked you guys up and I'm going to tell you, I want to be able to earn more than I think that I'll ever be able to earn, you know, in any other position anywhere else. But I think you guys are the way that I could, or the ability, you know, give me the ability to do that. That's a perfect answer that I'm looking for.
Yeah. Well, I think it was fascinating when I, in my little tenure back in doing sales recruiting, is when I asked the question of what are you currently making, or what did you currently make at your previous role, which you can only do in certain states. I looked that up recently. Is asking what their previous work income is that it tells a lot about what their future income is. Because if they're saying, I'm going to shoot for the moon, but if they don't have that expertise or expectation or all that kind of stuff, is they're typically, you know, you're not going to move somebody far up. You know, their motivation is only so far. Because if they've been making $40,000 a year and they've been happy with it up to this point, you know, shooting for $100,000 a year, that's a long, you know, that's a dream to that person versus, and they might have the skills to do it, but it's something to kind of take into account. So, you know, when it comes to like recruiting and trying to find a good sales rep, obviously the traditional model is I'm just going to blast the sales ad out there. And often those sales ads have, you know, opportunity to make $100,000 a year and 6 figures or whatever that is from that side of things. And then you just get like you get a little bit of everything from that ad. You either, get people who are just like, think it's an MLM marketing thing, or you feel like, and then companies and sales managers feel like they have to sell people to get them into the interview and then sell them once they're in the interview to become work for them. So obviously the ideal situation is that your ad, you are a good company that people actually want to work for and they want the job from you. So you're screening them out. In most sales positions, it seems like it's a 50-50. You're trying to sell the salesperson to come work for you and only try the, so there's a lot of sales involved there versus, you want to hire people who are actually good at this role and find candidates who are going to be successful at it, that you don't have to sell and make them believe that they'll be successful at it. So how do you, putting jobs ads out there versus like recruiting them, like which do you feel like kind of works better and in different situations, or even when you're putting a job ad out there, what works best to kind of get somebody who's actually interested in your opportunity?
So the best way that I've seen with job ads, if I'm going to put something out on Indeed or something like this, first of all, you need to go out, find a videographer, bring them in and do a recruiting video, because you can explain the process, the people you're looking for. And if they're not even willing to click on the link and watch the video, then fill out their information, I don't want them anyway. And so I may spend a lot of money to put that out there. And we've gotten customers from it as well. But when they watch that video, they really get the sense of understanding of what they're going to learn, what the lifestyle that they're able to earn, as well as the team that they get to join. They get to hear from people that have been doing it for a while. And the fact that, I was a Marine and didn't know really what to do. So I came in kind of aimlessly, didn't know what to expect. And now I make more money than any of my friends do, being able to make $150,000. This is something, and we want to make it reasonable. I mean, we have guys that are making $500,000 and I'm not putting them on video, because that's not reasonable for somebody that's just looking to make more than, say, 80,000. And so we want to make it reasonable. We want to make it fun. We want to make it seem easy, but hard, something where, hey, you can do this, but you're going to have to work at it.
Yeah. I love the video aspect of it here. And that's where we're even going through recruiting internally, and sharing a video just about the company and all that, and what the job's going to entail and all of that stuff. I think it can be a selling proposition and help kind of sell the company as a valuable asset and why you'd actually want to work here. But you're able to, kind of balance the good, the benefit of working here, and with that it's really hard work. So let's dive into the next question here. It's just, do you hire someone with experience, or do you hire someone who's kind of green and doesn't have experience in sales or in the home improvement industry?
The answer is both. I mean, I will never turn away someone that has experience. I do like people that are green in the industry, because we can train them to do the right thing from the start. I don't have any baggage. I don't have to hear, well, I'm not used to doing that. So when we bring somebody in and they do say that they have a lot of experience, and they may have a lot of experience, we're going to let them know, like, hey, we enjoy the fact that you have that experience, but please don't come to me and tell me what you used to do, because I really don't care. I'm very sincere about that. I really don't care. And I want them to use that experience to be able to sell. But, we have to have everybody rowing in the same direction. And if I'm in a sales meeting and someone pipes up and says, hey, we used to do it this way, which is completely different than what we're trying to teach and train, that's not something I ever want to come out to other sales reps that we have.
No, that makes sense. So I think it kind of goes back to that. You're looking for the humility aspect of it. So if they have experience in the industry, we've all met with the individual I was the top rep over at that sales rep. And if you're going to hire them, that they're going to be the rogue sales rep who's not going to attend your sales meetings, and you don't want them to attend your sales meetings, and they kind of let that guy slide because, he still sells a lot of deals. And that's a cultural thing. It's like, I don't think that's a healthy culture, to have one guy going rogue while the rest of everybody's rowing in the same direction. Right. You have to decide what kind of culture you're going to have. But yeah, somebody with experience and a big head on their shoulders who are not humble is going to that's the negative of doing that, for sure.
Right.
Well, and I think, and it goes to, obviously what you do with Top Rep as well. I just, training somebody is like, you have to have a training process to bring in somebody green, that if they're super, trainable and they possess the skills that they're very much a people person, they enjoy, they're extroverted, they enjoy that, talking and communicating with others, and they might have not been in a sales position or in a similar type role. If you can train them if you have very strict training process there for them to follow. If you're going to throw them to the wolves, and you're going to give them a, 1-page document of how we train and your price list, and you're that's it's, a time bomb waiting to explode there. If, you're rolling the dice on what that person's going to be successful or not.
If you bring somebody in, you should have a sales manual. I mean, this is a handbook as well as a training manual. It tells them how to run their leads. It's everything, how to dress, there's everything that their sales rep should ever need. Even though I wouldn't put the pay in there. However, when to turn in your jobs to get paid by the next Friday, whatever the case may be, it should all be in that manual.
Absolutely. Yeah, just everything from A to Z on that side of things. So let's kind of pivot into the rebuttals on that side of things, and talk about a couple of these here. We never hear these ever come up, but here's like, how do we overcome the dreaded price objection that sales reps will go through, and that's obviously that comes in many different forms. That's the broad category of the price objection that you sit there and try to one call close. But tell us kind of the best strategy for getting over that.
So when you get someone says, hey, you did a great job, but man, your price is just more than what we thought. You don't know what that means. And so when we're in, whether I'm in talking to a large group or talking to a company with a bunch of sales reps, I'm going to go around and say, hey, what does that mean to you? What does price too much mean to you? Everybody's going to give me a different answer. And the thing that I'm trying to help them understand is it doesn't mean anything. Price too much doesn't mean anything. So I need to boil that down. I need to figure out what that means. And so, you're going to simply ask them, how do you mean? Or mirror it. Price too much? What you're doing is asking them what that means. And they're going to say, yeah, I mean, and I'm going back to a scenario that I was actually in where the guy looked at me and says, man, it's just more. There's no way. I mean, that's more than what we are thinking. How do you mean? Man, I just had a daughter that got married and my son just graduated high school, about to go to college. I just don't have the money right now. And so it went from they couldn't afford it to it's a timing thing. So I asked him, I said, hey, so you had us out here. Obviously you figured out how you're going to pay for this one way or another. He says, well, I mean, I was just getting some bids right now so I could pay for it with my bonus. Well, when are you getting that bonus? Oh, we're going to get it in October. Okay, great, man. I can't wait to do business with you when you get that bonus. Wait a minute. Let me ask you, if I was sitting in front of you when you got that bonus, what you're telling me is that we would have been doing business? Yeah. Okay. So if there were a way that I could go ahead and put this bathroom in now, and I don't need anything from you until you get that bonus, is that something you'd even be interested in? His wife just jumped up and says, well, yeah, how do you do that? So, obviously I'm never going to mention the word financing in the house. So I let them know that we have a trade partner that allows us to do just that I don't need anything from you now. And actually, I don't need anything from you in October. I don't need anything from you until today of next year. I want to make sure that this is an easy decision for you. I've not put any stress on your pocketbook whatsoever. And so all I need is your driver's license. You got your driver's license on you. And a lot of the finance companies don't need driver's license now, but that's an easy way for me to ask for the deal. So when I'm going through their driver's license, entering the information, then I'm going to hand my iPad or my phone over to them to enter in their social and their income and all that. That's getting it started, getting things moving. But again, that's an easy way of handling price too much. Mm-hmm. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that looks at you and say, well, that's just way more than I thought that this would be. Okay. So before, because now I have to step them up. I can't just say, well, what did you think this would cost? So you have to step them up. So before I came out here, Connor, or Sean, where did you think that this would cost before I came out? And they're going to say, well, I mean, you're at 10,000 now. I was only thinking this thing was going to be about 8. Okay. So now that I went through all the technology upgrades that have happened since the last time that you bought a roof, or since the last time that you looked into getting a new bathroom, and I'm going to go through those upgrades, you know, whether it's the nail, whether it's the underlayment, whatever the case may be. And I said, where are you at now? And it's great if they say, well, I mean, I guess I can see the value. I mean, praise the Lord if that ever comes up. But typically that doesn't happen. You know, they're going to split the difference, whatever the case may be. So they may say, well, I mean, I get it. I mean, I guess we can come up to 9. I guess I can see 9. All right. So what you're telling me is that we're only about $1,000 apart. Yeah. How long will it take you to come up with the rest? And then you shut up. And I get calls all day. People saying, oh, that'll never work. And then they'll call me and they're like, I can't believe it, Chuck. That worked. I'm like, yeah, it worked, because you're throwing the ball back in their court. They want to buy. They just want you to show them how to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that's the key to it, is that a price objection is, you know, I think it comes down to, did you build the value? If you're confident that you built the value, now it's about, well, the price objection is just, that's the only thing keeping them from actually making the purchase. You got to find out what's keeping them from that. And that's just like the not interested or anything like that is when you're booking an appointment or anything like that. You got to go find out. You got to find the why that's right. keeping them from that. What changed their mind? What's the key behind that? That's fantastic. I love the turning it back on them, of going like, well, how long would it take you to come up with that amount, that difference? And that's a fantastic way to put it. So I think in today's world, obviously, when we buy things, we buy things so quickly that are so low ticket, even stuff that's very high ticket often today, if it's easy and convenient to us. But how do you find, especially in the situation where they're getting multiple estimates, of how do you create the urgency to purchase today? When they kind of come back at you and go, well, yeah, I know I'd prefer to kind of just wait for that bonus because that's when I'd have the money. I'm not really looking to finance anything. Just wanted to get the estimates so we know what we're looking for, and, you know, if I need to save anything on top of it.
So if it's timing, you know, we just went through that. I mean, we're going to use same as cash financing to do that. And again, we're going to talk about our trade partner that we have that allows us to do things, just like this. We're not going to talk about financing. A lot of your reps will look at a homeowner and say, yeah, we have financing for that. And that's the F word in sales. The stuff that we don't want to talk about is the financing. We talk about financing without saying it. Now, when you're talking about getting other bids, that is the big one now. It used to be that it was, I need to think about it. Well, if you are worth your salt in sales, I need to think about it is no longer an issue. That should be one of the first things that you learn. And again, when we look through the entire process, it's getting everything to money. So these are stalls and excuses. These are not objections. I need to think about it. I need to talk to my dad. I need to talk to my son. I never do business the night of. I need to get 3 estimates. These are not objections. These are stalls and excuses to get you out of the house. So you just need to understand how to get it to money. And if you can get it back to money, that is the objection. And those are the objections that are easy. When people say, man, I hate getting the price objection. I love getting the price objection because they did my job for me. I didn't have to go through all the other scripts to get to that one. So when you're dealing with somebody that, let's say that they say that their competitor's cheaper, that's the easy one. Your buddy down the street, man, they're less than you. Okay. And I'm sure they do great work too. I have no doubt. Let me ask you. So let's just imagine here that both of us, you had their proposal and my proposal, what we're going to do. Let's say that they're both the same price. Which one would you go with? And I mean, I've been doing this 20 years, but I've not had one person say, oh, I'd go with the other guy. No, I'm the one that's sitting there. So they're going to say, well, I mean, we'd go with you. Okay, great. That's fantastic. Well, do you mind if I ask why? And they're going to come in with, I like your, I like the Delta faucet. I love how, the warranty. They're going to go through all these different things as to why they're justifying the difference. And I'm going to continue to ask them why. I'm not going to jump into, well, so isn't that worth the money? So when they're done, I say, well, why else? I'm going to keep them going until they say, well, I think that's all I can think about. Okay, so with everything, and I'm going to repeat what they just told me. Don't you think that's worth the difference of $1,000 or $2,000? I have done this for and upwards of $7,000, and it doesn't work every single time, but a lot of times it does work. And I was selling baths for a company called Rebuttals. I was helping them out, and during this time, it was $7,000. We were going up against a contractor, not another franchise, and he was just kept going. And I says, isn't that worth the difference in what you'd have to pay? And the wife says, yup, honey, give them the credit card. And the person I was riding with I thought they were going to wet themselves in their chair. And I says, just like they say, you miss 100% of the chances you don't take. I knew that it was going to be a long shot at $7,000 difference, but I took the shot and it worked. So the same thing with 3 bids. Now, if I'm going to talk to somebody and say, you did a great job, but, we're going to have 3 other people coming out. Well, I want to know, other than the fact that you want to get 3 bids, is there any other reason why you wouldn't feel comfortable using American WeatherTech for the project? And I say, no, everything sounds great. Okay, great. So once you have those 3 bids and you sit them all side by side, how are you going to choose which to go with? What criteria are you going to use to make that final decision? And so you may have to talk them into it, because most of the time they're going to say price, because they want to negotiate price and say, well, is price the only thing that you care about? You don't really care about what material that I give you? Because trust me, if we really wanted to get right down to it, we can give you a cheaper price. You're just not going to like what you get, And no. We do want the quality. So can we agree here that it's going to be the value? And when they say yes, okay, so if in 7 to 10 days you felt that our value met your expectations, could you see yourself being a customer of American WeatherTech? Well, yeah, of course. Okay, great. I'll tell you that you're always going to find somebody that can do the project cheaper, but I'm confident that you'll never find somebody that can do it cheaper and still be able to do the job right. And so we're going to cover our price assurance guarantee. Some people call it apples to apples. And so we're going to go through that again, and then we're going to ask them. So let me ask you, if we feel that strongly and are willing to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to put this in writing, we're really going to put our money where our mouth is, do you think that it would be almost impossible to find a company that could beat the value that we're giving you? And so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. We're going to boil this thing down. And again, there's nothing that works 100% of the time. But what I will tell you is that this works a lot of the time. Anytime that someone has been in the house, and I still go in, I sell quite often. Typically, I have somebody with me, whether it's one of my sales reps or somebody else's. But when they sit there and they watch me go through this, they're like, oh, Chuck, it's magic. It's not magic. It's the system. Yeah. And you just got to understand why you're saying this. You can't just learn the script. You have to learn the script, but it's not just learning the script. You have to understand why you're doing it.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's, if you're able to boil it down to the simplicities, I think that's, finding out the true reason why, I think the multiple estimates, again, if they're really looking for price or really looking for quality, all of this stuff, is it built into the sales system that it goes, well, if you've built the value on the front end through a good presentation, it's shared why you're different and all those things, then this part of the script that you're sharing makes sense and can be, gone through and answer it this way. So, and I think with a price assurance and all that kind of stuff, that you can win that business, you've got to have all the steps in the process versus just having just that portion to answer that one question. You need to build the value on the front end to be able to go through this on the back end. and truly answer it, versus people get kind of stuck in that, by not, they didn't build any value of what their company does or does differently in the products that they use, and to go through all that detail. They gave a price, and now they're stuck trying to justify it and on the back end. And they don't have any way to be able to go through that because they haven't built any value up to that point.
Another thing I want to point out is when you're going into these rebuttals, so when you're presenting, you have to have that very confident feel, because you want that to come across that you're very confident with what you're talking about, and expert, the credibility. However, when someone has a problem with your price, or they want you out of the house, now you need this. I've done a lot of coaching with Chris Voss, the hostage negotiator. And I used to just call it my Barry White voice, just because I can have a very, low tone. But he calls it your late night FM DJ voice. It's that, I can't deal with an objection when I'm dealing with it, right? Just like I'm dealing with talking with you right now. But if I say, hey, man, I totally understand. I mean, that's why we give you 30 days. Again, so I'm going into the tone of my voice is going to change. We used to say we're going to make ourselves small, because we don't want to tower over him, and it's like pushing them into the deal. I'm not looking to push them into anything that they don't want to do.
Yep. When it's kind of backing off and going, well, yeah, we'd happily make that. I totally understand. And like you're not going in there and trying to be aggressive and trying to answer their question to go back into the sales. You're letting the rebuttal and the script do that for you to overcome that objection. And I've seen that too many times where the sales reps trying to they jump into it, and the other person just backs away even further in that, versus really being able to think on it. So yeah, let's dive into kind of the last portion of things here for sake of time here. And we can go on this all day long, go through the sales process and the sales steps. Obviously, you've got a course to be able to go through this stuff in multiple days. Let's just the best way to retain sales reps as a whole. Obviously, the sales industry is very, very turnover happy in this space, and people burn out from, commission sales positions. They move on to other companies that offer 1% higher percentage points, or they go end up, the home improvement industry is great at having a sales rep, then that sales rep having done with the company, starting their own company, because it only costs $250 and 20 hours of education to go become a contractor themselves and hire crews. So how do you retain sales reps? On a commission basis, they're very entrepreneurial if they do a commission only job. How do you keep them long term?
First of all, pay them. I mean, if they don't have cash flow, they have to be gone. It's not even their choice. They have to leave. If there's no cash flow for them, they have no choice but to leave. And be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they left. You haven't paid them in 2 months. You thought they were going to stay. The other thing is care about them. People want to work for somebody that wants to work for them. I mean, you have to love, serve, and care about that individual. Sometimes you have to show tough love, but care about them. Let them know that you care as much for them as they do for you and their paycheck. And so it's the culture that you put inside your organization. Mm-hmm. And some of these very fast cultures, they still have a good culture. We still want them to feel like we care, that we want to see them succeed, their family succeed. So have family events, not just sales events. The other thing is to not so much have an annual bonus, and I can talk about that here in just a second, but to have an annual trip. So maybe you have quarterly or monthly bonuses, but the annual piece of this is we're going to take the guys and gals that do more than, say, 1.2 million. And in many cases, that's easy to do, but it's not about having them strive and really reach to hit that. It's because they pay for themselves. And I want everybody on our team to go on that trip. And it's not really even for the sales rep. It's for their wives or their husbands, which, whatever. We want them to kind of feel really good about saying, hey, look what I did. And you have to give them that opportunity. You know, there's a lot of times when they go home and they put in a long night, they come home to an argument because, oh, I did all this with the kids. Where were you at? You know, I was out making money, you know? And so when they have that opportunity to show them why they work so hard, that's huge. The other thing is and some people agree with this, some people don't, but I like retention bonuses. And so that is kind of an annual bonus. So if you get over a certain amount, that you would get, say, 1%, but this is amortized over the next year. And if at any time that sales rep decides they're going to leave and go somewhere else, they know they're giving up all that money. And it's not a negative thing. It's just an enticement to stay, because we all know that sales reps love greener pastures. And when people say, oh, people leave because their boss, not always. They leave because of somebody else giving them a bigger, better deal. Yeah. And when they get over there, like a lot of the sales reps that have left me have come back. It's like, look, I can sit here and I'm going to let you go because I'm going to get you back. The person that you're going to is not going to fulfill the promises that they gave you, but they know that you're a good sales rep. So they're going to promise you the world. And then all of a sudden, when they have you, they don't feel like they need to actually give you it all. And so that's what typically happens. And so we're going to entice them to stay. We're going to, let's say, hey, I know there's a lot of people out there. You're going to have a lot of pressures, but also I'm going to continue to pay you this bonus over the next year because you passed that $1.5 or $2 million. And so now you have this large bonus hanging out there that if you don't stay, you don't get.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. Well, this has been awesome here. Thank you so much for kind of diving into this stuff here with us. Obviously, we could dive into these topics for a lot longer, and that's why you have your event. So, so you said you have your Denver event here coming up here next week, and sometimes there. Obviously, if anyone's interested in that, where can they find out more about Top Rep and just reach out to you and kind of what you're doing as well?
So they can find me on Facebook or on LinkedIn. But the easiest way to get more information on Top Rep is just www.topreptraining.com. Everything is there. All the dates, you can register there. It's that easy.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Well, thank you all for joining us here today, and especially you, Chuck, here as well for your wealth of knowledge. Thank you for diving into this stuff here, and hopefully have an amazing event here next week.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Yeah, we'll talk to you all really soon.